I can't hear you.
Hello? Can you hear us?
Hello?
Your science has failed you. I have no audio. There we are. Yeah, we're talking.
Can you hear us?
All right.
Yep, gotcha. Well, actually, Jeff, you're incredibly upset about nothing. I didn't say a word about science. I agree with you 100%. I don't know where that came from.
We have some of your statements here written down. You claimed that we have a very narrow view of evidence. What did you mean by that?
Well, first of all, let me clear up what I didn't mean, just because of your incredibly emotional tirade there, which I actually kind of enjoyed. But I think science is absolutely valid. I love science. I have a minor in physics, actually. Don't get me wrong. I had no problem with science.
So I would just like you to explain your criticism that we have a narrow view of evidence. What do you mean?
No problem. But I do have one more preface I have to sneak in.
Okay.
My call was never about God. I have no use for Christianity, the Bible, Christians.
That's fine.
Blood-soaked
I don't care.
God.
I don't care. Okay. I want to know what you meant by accusing us of having a narrow view of evidence.
Okay, great. Actually, to be very clear, very specific, I never said those exact words. What I meant and said was that the way you treat evidence, you know what, I back up, I did say narrow view, but what I meant was that you treat evidence in a kind of a narrow way, as if it's all there is, and I just can't go with that.
What do you think there is besides evidence?
No. Your view of evidence.
Well, you just criticize us now of acting as if evidence was all there was.
No. Your view of evidence. Your view of evidence is all there is.
Okay.
I think your
what else is there?
definition of evidence is a little fine for me.
It's
broader. My definition of evidence
you
is
think
broader.
that we should have a looser definition of evidence?
Let's
we should
say
be
broader.
less serious about being really, specific about what counts and what doesn't?
I think I know what you just said. Yes, but I want to use the word broader.
Okay,
broader,
less stringent, basically.
Okay, in what way?
In the sense that this idea of evidence is tied very closely to Western European.
I don't care what it's tied to. What's wrong with it?
I'm telling you, it's tied to Western European-based thinking.
And that's wrong?
Yeah. Well,
why is that wrong?
It's not wrong. It's incomplete.
Okay. What else is there?
I think it's broader than that.
Okay.
Broader in what way?
In the way that, let's go back to the magnetism thing. Magnetism existed before we even suspected.
Sure, of course. There are many, many things that exist that we know nothing about.
Right.
That's your point.
And they have, for us, no evidence. You see what I'm saying? Because they exist already.
What?
These things,
sure. Sure. And what should we think about things for which we have no evidence whatsoever?
Well, because the thing exists and we have no evidence for it.
Yeah.
Right, at the time. We're not even looking for evidence because we don't even suspect it exists.
Right.
Magnetism.
Yeah.
Or anything. Electricity, I don't know. Magnetism. It exists, and we don't know about it, and we have no evidence of it because we're not even looking for it.
Okay, and?
It nevertheless exists.
And?
So we, at the time, if somebody, like you said, walks up and tells you about it, you would probably deny that it's true.
Sure.
Because you have no evidence.
Sure.
So your definition of evidence is too small.
No. Whoa.
Yeah.
See, I use that specific example. I think absolutely the correct stance to take. If somebody walks up to you with some claim that's, rather extreme, like magnetism 1,000 years ago, right? If somebody walks up to you with a claim that's that out of the blue and asks you to believe it, but cannot provide any evidence whatsoever, then refraining from belief is exactly the correct position to take. In fact, if you go ahead and agree that that guy is telling the truth without anything to go on other than his personal testimony, you're an idiot. This is true whether he happens to be right or not. In what sense is our definition of evidence too narrow now?
It's in this sense that it's...
Well, I'm trying to think, what would have been the proper response 1,500 years ago if somebody had said, I've got this theory that two rocks will go together for some reason.
Let's say he had one time. He said, "Oh, these two rocks jumped together."
Yeah,
and and it's witchcraft or something.
Yeah, what would have been the proper response for him?
Well, this is what I'm saying. The same thing happened last week. Russell and I agreed, and now Jeff and I agree, even though he doesn't understand that we agree.
What are we agreeing on?
When you said if you immediately believe the guy, you're incorrect. I agree.
Okay. So in what sense?
If you hesitate to believe without evidence, I agree.
Yeah.
Here's where we part ways.
Okay.
In general, and I'm talking in general, very generally, I'm off of magnetism now to a much bigger topic, that there's a tendency on your part, and like I said last week, and by yours, I mean atheist community.
Sure, that's fine.
To kind of close the door as opposed to leaving it a little open. Because there may yet come evidence of magnetism. You see what I mean? There may yet come evidence.
This is a common accusation that people of a scientific worldview get, and it's a lie. That is just not true. Now, we will be very serious about, idea X that has a huge amount of experimental evidence stockpiled supporting it, right? Something that has been relied upon for decades or centuries by scientists, right? Mm-hmm. Gravity, whatever, right? I mean, magnetism. Now, if somebody were to come to us and say, no, you see, magnetism doesn't work at all like the way you think it does. Magnetism is actually the result of invisible pixies pulling those rocks together. Invisible, intangible pixies. We're going to call that person an idiot. Not because we know absolutely for sure that, nowhere in the universe could that possibly be true, because we don't know that there aren't invisible pixies, right? What we do know is that there are centuries of accumulated evidence showing that magnetism works according to these known principles. And we're really serious about that. We think it matters. We think that people who don't play the odds and go with what the vast weight of evidence indicates are fools. And we're going to say so. And we're not going to be apologetic about it. But if you come along and say, therefore, because we will come back at somebody and say, no, you're an idiot for believing this thing without any evidence and against the weight of all the evidence that exists, that therefore we have closed the door and are claiming that we absolutely know anything for sure, you're wrong. That's a lie. You see, we have reasons to believe the things we believe. Really solid, rational, evidence-based reasons. Those count. Those give us ammunition. We damn well are going to tell people who want to fly in the face of that they've got a big job cut out for them to prove their case.
Yeah,
that's it. It's folks like you overreact when we take a serious stance on something.
First of all, I have no limit to the amount that I resent folks like you.
Well,
folks like you, I don't know what you're talking about.
The thing that you did that set me off was you made this attack on Western reductionist science, and that's the kind of folks I'm talking about. Because you're not alone. There are a lot of people out there that have a problem with Western reductionist science.
And I think you're actually getting with this, or your initial view was not so much perhaps our views of evidence, but that we are closing the door to, again, throwing out an example, ESP.
Thank you.
We have good reasons, though, for saying that when somebody comes along with a claim of ESP, for saying, no, that's going to be bunk. Because most science, we have other scientific explanations of how things work. This doesn't fit with any of them. There's no evidence to prove it. There have been studies on it that have shown it to mean nothing at all.
And if there's ever evidence that proves something is true, we'll be the first to agree that it's true.
See, this is, again, we agree. We just don't know we do.
Well,
we agree. That's what I'm saying that I want. I was just worried that you guys didn't feel that way. I felt like, geez, maybe they've got blinders on and they're not seeing it.
Yeah.
Well, one more very quick thing and then I'm off here. Last week, the whole reason this started is because Russell said, somebody called about 9/11, and Russell just threw his hands in the air. I can't listen to this again, and this terrible, and there's no evidence.
And we're not going to get on to 9/11 again this show.
Yeah, we're not.
Yeah, and that was the whole point. But that's what brought it up is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because he had that knee-jerk reaction, And if you're interested in evidence, he wasn't even interested in considering evidence. He didn't want to hear it.
Okay.
And that made me think, blinders.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, good show. Thank you very much, and I'll be in touch.
All right. Thanks a lot for calling.
Bye-bye.